What's going on, guys? Randy here at BNC. Well, this Sunday we finish up the fruit of the Spirit. It's been a great series of talking about each and every one, and this Sunday we'll be talking about self-control. We started talking about self-control last week with gentleness, and we sort of hinted around to what we'll be talking about this Sunday about self-control and the words we choose to use. Before I get into that, though, I want to talk to you about a fountain. Now, I don't know about you, but on a really hot day, and we've had some really hot days the past couple of weeks, a nice, cool drink of water from a fountain tastes awesome. So imagine there's this favorite fountain that you love to go to. You love to visit this fountain because it has the best tasting water ever. It's the clearest water, it's the purest water, and it always refreshes you and leaves you feeling good. But now let's pretend that you're told that sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes that water that flows from that fountain is fed from a dirty sink. Sounds kind of gross, right? You know, I've seen some really gross, disgusting sink water in my days. In fact, I've seen it so bad that you cannot see the bottom of the sink. It is so dirty. And sometimes you're afraid to stick your hand down in there because of what you're going to find at the bottom, all the food and junk that's sitting down there. Would you want to take a drink of that fountain knowing that there may be a chance that you may get some dirty sink water? Sometimes it flows great, other times it flows from dirty sink water. Of course, none of us want to take a drink. None of us want to take a chance on that. I don't want that. But yet, that's what James talks about in chapter 3, verses 9 and 10. James warns us about the words we choose to use, and self-control has everything to do with it. In that particular passage, James is warning us. He's saying, look, guys, you can't be praising God with your lips and tongue, and then at the same time, out of that same fountain, speak words that break down and discourage and tear down. And yet, sometimes that's what we end up doing. Guilty. We're all guilty of that. And so James gives us a great warning of that. And then he goes on to talk about what the tongue is sort of like. He talks about a rudder in a ship and a bit in a horse's mouth. A ship is really, really big, and a horse is really, really big. But the rudder is small, and the bit is small, yet both control the direction of the horse and the ship. And that's the same way with our words. It controls the direction of our lives. It controls the words that we choose to use. It helps us remind us that the words we use can either build up or do great destruction. Sometimes it can be hard. Sometimes it's very difficult. And sometimes it's a struggle. I've been there. I know it. I'm guilty of it. But here's the thing. The whole series, we've talked about how the fruit in our lives is produced by the Holy Spirit. But we're also responsible for our own part. And if we allow God to work in us and allow God to work through us, the more we'll see that He can help us have the right self-control to use the right words. But we have to trust Him to help us to do that. And we're going to ask the question to the kids, and I'm asking you guys the same question today. What can happen when you lose control? Because when we stop to think about the ramifications of what can happen, we don't want to lose control because we can't take those words back. One of the small group activities this Sunday with the kids will be squeezing toothpaste out of a tube. And the challenge for them will be able to put the toothpaste back in the tube like it was. And of course, it's an impossible challenge, much like it is taking the words back and putting them in our mouth. There's no undo button. There's no way to rewind and go back and do it again. Once we lose control, that's it. The damage is done, and then we have to deal with the ramifications of that, of making amends, of asking for forgiveness. And while we can get forgiveness, the damage is still done, and we have to build that trust back up. So that question is huge. What can happen when we lose self-control? When we lose our tempers, when we use words that we shouldn't use? We want to be the types of fountains that flow pure, refreshing water, not dirty sink water. And that's what your kids are going to learn Sunday. And that's what I want you guys to grab a hold of as well. We're all guilty of that. This isn't a lesson just for kids. This is a lesson for us adults as well. Particularly in parents, when we lose it and we're short on patience on a certain day and we've had a busy day and the kids are all at us and we feel like we're going 100 miles an hour. We haven't enough time, hadn't had enough time to sit down and just 5 minutes of just, we have to have self-control. And God is the God that can give us that kind of self-control. We have to rely on the Holy Spirit and trust Him and lean into Him to help us have that kind of control. I love you guys. I'm praying for each and one of you by name. Thank you so much for being a part of our BNC family.